Have you ever been in a conversation with someone who made you feel small, confused, or even a little bit crazy? Like no matter how clearly you spoke, they twisted your words or turned the blame back on you? If that sounds familiar, you might have been dealing with a narcissist. And let me tell you, if you've lived a few decades on this earth, there's a good chance you've met more than one. Whether it's a partner, a grown child, a sibling, or even a friend from church or your community, dealing with a narcissist can leave you feeling drained, disrespected, and misunderstood. Especially at this stage of life, when your peace, clarity, and emotional well-being matter more than ever. The last thing you want is to be pulled into someone else's chaos. You've worked too hard, survived too much, and learned too many lessons to allow someone else to treat you like a pawn in their emotional games. Now you might be wondering, can a narcissist ever really respect someone? The honest answer is, not in the way we usually think of respect. Narcissists often can't feel genuine respect because they're stuck in a cycle of insecurity, ego, and control. But there is a way to carry yourself physically, emotionally, and spiritually that can shift the balance of power. It won't magically turn a narcissist into a kind or caring person, but it can give you back your strength, help you stand your ground, and make it clear that you are not someone to be toyed with. So today, we're going to talk about how to make a narcissist respect you. Not because you beg for it, or bend over backwards, or play their games, but because you're reclaiming your power in ways that matter. Let's start with something that might surprise you. Your energy speaks louder than your words. You could say all the right things, read every book on boundaries, and memorize every comeback. But if deep down you feel unsure of yourself, exhausted, or desperate for approval, a narcissist will pick up on it in an instant. That's why the first step to gaining any form of respect is learning how to own your frequency. Now, don't let that word scare you. It's not woo-woo or complicated. Your frequency is simply the emotional energy you radiate. Think of it like this. Have you ever walked into a room and just felt someone's presence without them even saying a word? That's frequency. And narcissists are experts at sniffing out people who feel unsure, ungrounded, or are craving love and validation. They can sense it, and unfortunately, they often take advantage of it. But the good news is, the opposite is also true. When you carry yourself with calm, grounded confidence, when you genuinely believe in your worth and don't need anything from them, something changes. The narcissist may not like it, but they'll feel it. And that shift in energy can begin to create distance between their chaos and your calm. So how do you start owning your frequency? Begin by tuning in. Pay attention to how you feel when you're around them. Do you shrink? Do you try to please? Do you feel like you're walking on eggshells? That's the first sign your energy is being pulled into their orbit. Pause. Breathe. Remind yourself, I don't need their approval. I don't need to defend myself. I don't even need to react. Start grounding yourself with simple things. A morning walk without your phone. Deep breathing when you feel your heart racing. A daily affirmation like, I am steady, I am strong, I do not chase validation. These might seem small, but they create inner shifts that build up your emotional strength. And narcissists can feel that strength even if they never admit it. Now let's talk about something else that makes a world of difference. Knowing when to keep things to yourself. When you're dealing with someone manipulative, oversharing is like handing them ammunition. You might think you're being honest or open-hearted. But to a narcissist, that's just more material to twist, use, or throw back at you later. That's why one of the most powerful things you can do is to hold your cards close to your chest. Not out of fear, but out of wisdom. You don't need to explain your every decision. You don't have to tell them what you're thinking or planning. In fact, sometimes the most empowering thing you can say is nothing. Silence can be stronger than a speech. It creates a boundary without needing to argue. It lets them know they don't have access to your inner world anymore. Now I know. If you're like many kind, compassionate folks, especially those of us raised to be generous, open, and trusting, it can feel unnatural to pull back like that. Maybe you were taught to always be honest, always give others the benefit of the doubt, or always speak from the heart. But narcissists aren't wired like you are. What feels like honesty to you might feel like opportunity to them. So here's something to remember. Just because someone asks a question doesn't mean they deserve an answer. Just because someone demands to be let in doesn't mean you have to open the door. Privacy isn't secrecy, it's self-respect. And this brings us to something even deeper. Becoming emotionally bulletproof. Not cold, not disconnected, but resilient. Able to stay calm when they try to provoke you. Able to walk away when they push your buttons. Able to hear their insults and think, that's about them, not me. But that kind of strength doesn't happen overnight. It comes from healing. From facing old wounds you might have carried for years, sometimes decades. Maybe you've been a people pleaser your whole life, or maybe you grew up feeling invisible, always trying to earn love or approval. And narcissists? They have a radar for people like that. But healing those parts of you doesn't just change how you feel. It changes how you show up. It makes you less reactive, less easy to manipulate. It allows you to stop feeling like you're on the emotional roller coaster they control. And let me tell you, when you stop reacting, it drives them absolutely wild. Because your reaction is their reward. Your pain is their power. And when you stop giving it to them, you start getting your life back. You might even notice something funny. When you stop trying to earn their respect, they start giving it, in their own twisted way. Not because they've changed, but because they realize they can't control you anymore. And that, in their world, earns a strange kind of admiration. So if you've ever felt powerless in the face of someone who constantly criticizes, manipulates, or dismisses you, know this: you are not helpless. You are not stuck. And you are absolutely capable of becoming someone who not only demands respect, but radiates it from the inside out. Let's keep going. Now that we've talked about staying grounded and learning when to keep things close to your chest, let's keep going. Because when it comes to handling a narcissist, your power lies not in changing them, but in deeply changing the way you respond to them. One of the most underestimated tools you have is the ability to control your image, how you present yourself. And no, this isn't about being flashy or trying to prove anything. It's about quietly owning your worth in such a way that others can feel it without you ever having to explain it. See, narcissists are drawn to people they perceive as either easy to manipulate or useful to their image. But when you show up with calm dignity, when you don't flinch under pressure, when your presence says, "I'm not here for games," something shifts in the dynamic. Narcissists may not admit it, but they do size people up. They look for cracks. And when you present yourself with confidence without arrogance, they notice. They may not like it, but they notice. You don't need to be loud. You don't need to prove anything. In fact, sometimes the most powerful people in the room are the quietest ones. A soft-spoken person who knows their value will always make more of an impact than someone who's just trying to impress. That quiet self-assurance, that's what creates an invisible shield. It says, "I know who I am. You don't get to define me." You might even notice that the narcissist starts showing you a different kind of attention. Not admiration necessarily, but a shift. They may become cautious, even try harder to win you over. That's because they've sensed that you've stopped playing the role they cast you in. You've changed the script. And while they may never say it out loud, the truth is, narcissists respect people who don't need them. Now here's something that takes things even deeper. Developing what's called self-agency. That's a fancy way of saying you trust yourself to make your own choices, without needing someone else's approval or permission. And I know that for many of us, especially if we grew up being told to put others first or avoid conflict, this can be a tough skill to develop, but it's one of the most liberating things you'll ever learn. Self-agency is what allows you to walk away from an argument, not because you're weak, but because you know it's not worth your energy. It's what helps you say no without guilt. It's what gives you the strength to make decisions based on what's right for you, not based on what will make someone else happy. When you stop asking, "Will they be okay with this?" and start asking, "Is this okay with me?" that's when you start stepping into your full power. Narcissists don't know what to do with people like that. Because for their control to work, they need you to doubt yourself. They need you to feel uncertain so you'll keep leaning on them for clarity, approval, or validation. But when you stop playing that game, when you start standing on your own 2 feet emotionally, it throws them off balance. And again, they may never say it. But that strength earns something close to respect, even if it's tinged with resentment. Because deep down, they know they can't manipulate someone who trusts themselves more than they trust outside approval. Of course, none of this works without boundaries. And if you've never been taught how to set healthy boundaries, now's the time. Because boundaries aren't walls, they're doors with locks. You get to decide who comes in, when, and how long they stay. You also get to decide what kind of behavior is acceptable and what isn't. With narcissists, less is more. Don't explain your boundaries. Don't negotiate them. Just live them. For example, if you've told someone not to call after a certain hour and they keep doing it, you don't have to argue. You simply stop picking up. If someone speaks to you disrespectfully, you don't need to fight back. You calmly excuse yourself, end the conversation, and remove yourself from the situation. It's not about punishing them, it's about protecting your peace. And every time you do that, every time you act from a place of calm strength, instead of reacting from pain, you reclaim a little more of yourself. You teach the narcissist, without saying a word, that you're not a source of supply. You're not going to be their emotional punching bag, their fixer, their fan club, or their therapist. Now, I want to be clear here. Setting boundaries can be hard, especially when it's someone you care about, or someone you've had a long, complicated history with. There might be guilt. There might be pushback. The narcissist might accuse you of being cold, selfish, or unforgiving. That's normal. It's their way of trying to pull you back into the role they need you to play. But here's what I want you to remember. You are not here to manage anyone else's emotions at the expense of your own. You've earned your peace. You've earned the right to draw lines that protect your heart, your energy, and your sanity. And sometimes protecting yourself means keeping your engagement to a minimum. You don't have to explain, argue, or overextend yourself to maintain a relationship that constantly drains you. In fact, one of the most powerful things you can do when dealing with a narcissist is to limit how much access they have to you. That doesn't mean being cruel. It means being wise. If every phone call ends with you feeling anxious or upset, maybe you stop answering every call. If every visit turns into a verbal wrestling match, maybe you shorten the visit or stop going altogether. You have that right. You are allowed to say, "This doesn't work for me anymore." And sometimes the best thing you can do is simply walk away mid-conversation. Yes, really. If you're in one of those circular, confusing arguments where they twist your words, assume the worst, or put motives in your mouth you never had, you don't owe them your breath. You don't need to stay in the conversation just to be polite or to prove your side. You can simply say, "I'm not doing this," and exit the conversation. You don't owe them more than that. You don't owe anyone access to your peace. And the beauty of it is, the more you pull back from trying to be understood by someone who's determined to misunderstand you, the more freedom you feel. It's like laying down a heavy burden you didn't even realize you were carrying. Because the truth is, if someone is committed to misrepresenting your intentions or constantly dismissing your feelings, no amount of explaining will ever make them see you clearly. And you don't need them to. You just need to see yourself clearly. That's where your freedom lives. Let's keep going. There's something powerful that happens when you start limiting how much you engage. You begin to realize just how much energy you were giving away. How much of your day, your peace, your clarity was being consumed by conversations that went nowhere and dynamics that only drained you. It's like suddenly noticing the background noise that had been buzzing in your life for years, and then reaching over and turning the volume all the way down. And when that noise fades, something else gets louder, your own voice. But here's where we take it one step further. Because beyond limiting access, there's a deeper kind of strength. It's called sovereignty. Now, I know that's not a word we use every day, but let me explain. Personal sovereignty means that you belong fully to yourself. You don't need anyone to complete you, fix you, or rescue you. And you definitely don't need a narcissist to give you permission to live your life. When you step into that kind of independence, not just financially, but emotionally, spiritually, it creates a shift that narcissists can't quite handle. Because their power relies on your need for something from them. Approval, validation, even love. But when you stop needing anything from them, their ability to control you starts to crumble. It doesn't mean you have to be cold or cut off. It means you don't let their approval or lack of it dictate how you feel about yourself. If they call, you might answer, or you might not. If they criticize you, you won't crumble. If they try to pull you back into the drama, you simply don't take the bait. Because you've realized something they haven't. Your worth doesn't come from how others treat you. It comes from how you treat yourself. This is where real respect begins. Not from the narcissist, but from within. And yes, the narcissist might still try to get a reaction out of you. They may even escalate their behavior when they realize they've lost their grip. Sometimes it looks like guilt trips. Sometimes it's accusations or even a smear campaign. But remember, none of that defines you. Their words can't stick to you when you no longer believe they speak the truth. Their games don't work when you're no longer playing. What matters is that you've stopped handing them the script. You've stopped reacting on cue. You're not playing the role of fixer, peacekeeper, or emotional sponge anymore. You're simply living your life, on your terms, in your own time, with your dignity fully intact. And let me tell you something important. That is not just powerful. It's beautiful. Because here's what I know about you. If you're watching this, it's because some part of you knows you deserve more. You're tired of the confusion, the chaos, the constant second-guessing. You want clarity. You want peace. You want to be able to breathe again without feeling like someone else is holding the air. And you can have that. You've earned it. After all you've been through in life, whether it's raising a family, working hard, surviving loss, or just showing up again and again through the tough days, you have nothing left to prove to anyone. Respect isn't something you demand. It's something you quietly command when you finally start respecting yourself on the deepest level. And that includes letting go of the belief that you need to keep fixing broken people, or that you owe anyone your peace just because of shared history or blood ties. Family doesn't give someone the right to mistreat you. Love doesn't require that you sacrifice yourself to keep someone else comfortable. You can love people from a distance. You can be kind without being a doormat. You can forgive without forgetting who they are. And you can absolutely protect your energy like it's the most precious thing you own, because it is. Now I know, some of this may feel overwhelming. Maybe you've spent decades in a pattern where you were the one holding things together. Maybe you've given people chance after chance, hoping they'd change, or see your heart, or finally treat you the way you deserve. That hope is noble. It speaks to your strength. But sometimes, the most loving thing you can do, for them and for yourself, is to step back and stop trying. Because the truth is, narcissists often won't change. But you can. And that's where your power lies. You can change the way you show up. You can change the way you respond. You can change the story you tell yourself about who you are and what you're worth. And once that shift happens, everything around you begins to change too. So if you're sitting there wondering, is it too late for me to set boundaries? Can I really turn things around at my age? The answer is yes. Yes, you can. In fact, this may be the perfect time. Because you have something that younger folks are still trying to gain: wisdom, life experience, the ability to see through nonsense and recognize what truly matters. This next chapter of your life, it's not about proving yourself to anyone. It's about honoring yourself. It's about choosing peace over drama. It's about creating a life that feels calm, clear, and full of meaning. Even if that means letting some people go, or at least letting them further away from your heart. And I promise you, when you start living that way, you'll begin to attract relationships that are rooted in mutual respect, not fear, guilt, or control. You'll find yourself feeling lighter, more confident, and more like you. So whether you're dealing with a narcissist in your family, your social circle, or even your past, remember, you don't have to fix them. You don't have to make them see you. You just have to see yourself and walk in that truth every day. You're not too sensitive. You're not asking for too much. You're not overreacting. You're simply ready to live with dignity and without drama. And that, my friend, is a beautiful thing. If this message spoke to you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you experienced this kind of dynamic? What helped you start reclaiming your power? Share your story in the comments below. I know it will help someone else out there feel less alone. And if this video helped you, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to Strong Elderly Life for more warm, supportive, and empowering content like this. You deserve a space where your wisdom is honored and your voice is heard. Thank you for being here with me today. Here's to living your best life at any age, with peace in your heart, strength in your spirit, and no more room for toxic nonsense. You've got this.